baby.
See what I'm saying?
Mr. Figures, so you admitted that.
Who? Say I went to the guy and told him that?
That's what she testified.
No.
Did you admit to that?
No.
The only way you'd know that is through the DNA test results, Mr. Figures. It's uncertain Ms. Jackson will give the entire truth about the situation, and the child standing next to her obviously wouldn't know because he's the reason why everyone is here.
Ms. Jackson, you say Mr. Figures was a smooth-talking Casanova who swept you off your feet and out of your clothes and then left you with a baby.
Yes, Your Honor.
Ms. Jackson got sweet-talked by Mr. Figures into making her dress slip off her body, but it had its consequences as Ms. Jackson ended up being pregnant, but Mr. Figures was nowhere to be found for 20 years. 2 decades later, Ms. Jackson wants to prove to Mr. Figures that he's indeed the father of her child. Mr. Figures claims it's true he used to be a ladies' man, but he's over that now. Nevertheless, he knows he isn't the man that fathered Ms. Jackson's son.
Mr. Figures.
Yes.
And you, it sounds like love at first sight.
It was infatuation. I was never in love with him.
You weren't?
No.
So it was just infatuation?
Yes.
Okay.
Damn it, Mr. Figures didn't even give the audience the chance to blush over Ms. Jackson's story of love at first sight, or rather, infatuation at first sight. Mr. Figures is questioning Ms. Jackson on who else she was infatuated with. Well, the court wants to know too.
Were you guys using protection at the time?
Well, no, ma'am.
Not using protection?
We didn't.
No.
All right, and so...
I definitely know it wasn't just me. So, I definitely...
Oh, you do? You say you definitely know it wasn't...
I definitely know that.
Majestic indeed. Ms. Jackson even still remembers the nicknames Mr. Figures had back in the day. Is Ms. Jackson sure it was infatuation, or it was more than that? Because it's starting to look like that memory of Mr. Figures from 2 decades ago is etched in her mind. Back to the reason we are here. Mr. Figures is telling a story that is going somewhere.
His name was...
Mustafa.
He got a good memory. So...
This testimony is going real well, isn't it, Ron?
So...
Okay, at least we know they're on the same page.
Okay.
Oh, Ms. Jackson remembers everybody's nicknames, but she doesn't remember saying the other guy's name in the middle of the Humpty Dumpty. Mr. Figures may have to backtrack on that claim of Ms. Jackson having a good memory. Or Ms. Jackson does have a good memory, but she wouldn't show it off concerning mentioning another guy's name midway through the activity.
I want to give Mr. Figures a chance to respond.
From my perspective of things, you have this friend that's in your life or whatever, and that's good. But at the same time, when you telling everybody that you dealing with this person, here it is a week later, you having sex with me again, but you got a boyfriend.
Ms. Jackson claims a man had her back, and as opposed to what Mr. Figures thought was happening then, she was not having sexual relations with the man. Maybe that's true, but Mr. Figures doesn't believe that in the slightest bit. But Ms. Jackson says, How would think that when Mr. Figures himself went to tell the man in question that she was carrying his baby? Now that's complicated.
Because I want him to find out. And if I was so much of a runner, why am I here now? I mean, come on, I didn't have to come.
You know what, Mr. Figures? You didn't.
Ms. Jackson maintains her claim that she really wasn't having sex with the other man, but Mr. Figures really feels she was, because she went around telling everybody she was dealing with the man. Mr. Figures really believes the dealing with Ms. Jackson has been saying is just a better way of putting it that she was being intimate with the other man.
The young man.
It was, I mean, we had hard times, rough times. We've been through thick and thin. And she always told me don't run from your problems, so I don't run from my problems. I stick with her through thick and thin.
Is that a similar trait in Mr. Figures and his potential son? Mr. Figures says he's not a runner because he's here at this moment, and Ms. Jackson's 20-year-old son also says he's been taught by his mother to never run and he should face his problems instead. Even if the DNA test result says otherwise, at least, these two have something they can agree on.
Friends!
See, they fathers in life. All my friends have, my closest friend, his dad died, but he seen his dad. My other friends, they all know their daddy. They all having these things with their father.
But to be honest,
just go home. Like, I ain't got time to deal with it.
Seeing tears roll out uncontrollably from Ms. Jackson's son's eyes is sad, and no child deserves to feel this way. Children deserve to know who their father is, even if they don't want to have any relationship with them, and it's time to know if Mr. Figures is that father, or Mr. Figures figuring he's not the father 2 decades ago is in fact the truth.
It has been determined by this court, Mr. Figures, you are not the father.
Lying and cheating is the sole reaper of relationships or marriages, but folks love to think it may just be an act that could be erased easily whenever they feel like it. Maybe it can be overlooked in some relationships, but that isn't the case in Mr. Guzman and Ms. Sanchez's case.
Sanchez, you claim defendant Mr. Guzman plays a disappearing act when it comes to your child.
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Sanchez claims Mr. Guzman has been in and out of her daughter's life because he believes he isn't her biological father, but she will prove Mr. Guzman wrong about that in paternity court. Also, Ms. Sanchez wants to get half of the taking care expenses for her daughter. Mr. Guzman, who could be seen with a witness on the side, claims he doesn't believe he's the father of Ms. Sanchez's child, as Ms. Sanchez is known for her infidelity coupled with the fact that she's a liar and a cheater, and his witness will help prove his claim. Who?
What do you think is the real motive as to why your ex wants this paternity test?
Your Honor, it has nothing to do with the children. I believe it has more or less to do with me and her. She wants me here. She wanted me to come here and just to be around me.
Another case where the woman thinks her best way of getting her revenge on her cheating partner is by having unprotected sexual relations with other men. Well, Ms. Sanchez's feelings are valid considering she wanted to make Mr. Guzman feel the same pain he's put her through when he cheats, but that road led both of them straight to paternity court.
Mr. Guzman,
Yes, Your Honor.
Miss Sanchez has admitted to cheating.
Yes, Your Honor.
Is that what leads you to your doubt?
Yes, Your Honor.
Skinny dipping isn't considered sex, Ms. Sanchez, but it surely can lead to sex, ma'am. Mr. Guzman's doubt stems from Ms. Sanchez having been possibly intimate with other men. Everyone that can agree that's a solid point to doubt the paternity of a child if it's true. Mr. Guzman still has more stories to tell about what—
Are you denying the paternity of Kayla
Yes, Your
to
Honor.
mask your infidelity?
No, Your Honor.
Or do
He's
you
insecure. He
truly
wants to
have
be
doubts
control
as
of
to whether or
everything.
not
I truly have
she's
doubts
yours?
about it.
corroborated his doubts about Ms. Sanchez's child's paternity. Maybe Mr. Guzman is starting to have doubts about Ms. Sanchez's child paternity because he's trying to cover up his own insecurities, but Mr. Guzman says that's not the case. Mr. Guzman says he genuinely believes the child may not be his biological child, and that's the reason he's in paternity court.
So, Mr. Guzman, is it your testimony that you've witnessed Miss Sanchez at a party walk into
Yes.
a room with another man?
Yes.
Are we talking about winter or summer breaks? Mr. Guzman's brother says he witnessed how Miss Sanchez was locked up in a room with another man at a party he had attended. What if they were making plans about another party, Mr. Guzman? Miss Sanchez doesn't care whether Mr. Guzman's brother saw her or not, as she claimed they were not together. Even if they were together, Miss Sanchez doesn't care because she claims Mr. Guzman does worse.
Your little bag and leave out the house only to come again.
Your Honor,
this
my
is
daughter's
exhausting
4 years-
even for me to listen to. I can't imagine living it. And then, Miss Sanchez, why do you keep letting him in?
Because I love him.
No way! That's low. Mr. Guzman really did step out of line for that one. No child deserves to hear that, even if Mr. Guzman isn't sure about the child's paternity. Ms. Sanchez says she keeps letting Mr. Guzman back in because she loves him, and he was there for her when no one was. Well, that's not the case anymore, Ms. Sanchez. Things have happened, and his actions are different now.
I had the baby, he came last minute, and when he got there,
there
he
the
had the
whole time.
nerve to ask me if his little girlfriend can come into my labor room and see the baby. And at that time, I already knew they were sleeping
No,
together because it
Your
was
Honor.
posted on MySpace,
No.
Facebook, and all this other
Nobody
stuff.
was sleeping with anybody.
Yes,
it was a
you
friend.
were.
It was a mutual friend of ours.
Oh, that was the baby shower, baby dedication, or the baby's first birthday party that guests needed to be in attendance, Mr. Guzman. The least Mr. Guzman could do was spend time with Miss Sanchez after labor instead of coming in with his little girlfriend, as Miss Sanchez stated, even though Mr. Guzman argues it was their mutual friend.
For everything you've gotten wrong because you honestly don't know who the father of your child is.
Miss Sanchez is already deep in her feelings, and she just wants to break the cycle of fathers not showing up for their children like she and Mr. Guzman went through. That can only be possible if Mr. Guzman is the father of her child like she has testified. Let's see if the cycle will break in this court or another session will be needed.
4-year-old Michaela Guzman, Mr. Guzman, you are her father.
While some women don't hesitate to inform the father or potential fathers of their children that they are pregnant, some women hesitate to do so until the child is grown or they are asking questions about who their biological father is. Mr. Brooks and Ms. Smith may have to settle a different discourse out of court after their session.
Claim that your teenage crush on the much older defendant led you to becoming pregnant more than 2 decades ago. You say Mr. Brooks has denied fathering your
Ms. Smith claimed her teenage crush on the older Mr. Brooks, which led to them being intimate, resulted in a child, and she's here to prove paternity of the same child to Mr. Brooks. On the other hand, Mr. Brooks claims he didn't even know an offspring from Ms. Smith existed until the child was about 12 years old. Well, the part where it makes it get to paternity to court is that Mr. Brooks claims there were other men, and there's no way he's the father. We'll find out.
relationship start?
We met in the neighborhood through a mutual friend in the neighborhood that Mr. Brooks used to cut his hair. So I kind of like knew Mr. Brooks through him, and I just had a crush on him.
Oh, you did?
Yes.
Where he used to barb his hair? Well, that makes sense because there's currently no strand of hair on Mr. Brooks' head at the moment. Maybe he's still visiting that particular barber. Well, Miss Smith's innocent crush didn't develop into a romantic relationship, so how did they make the child?
Actual relationship.
I lied about my age, and Mr. Brooks happened to take me out one evening, and I lied to my mother about where I was going to be and who I was going to be with. So
one time is all it takes. Mr. Brooks may have done a little bit of research to know Miss Smith was very young, but Miss Smith can start acting like the victim now with her virginity when she intentionally lied about her age, lied to her mother, and other things she lied about to get to go out with Mr. Brooks. Mr. Brooks says Miss Smith didn't seem like a fan of the movies, and that made him go to the next itinerary of the day, the hotel.
Did you know this younger woman had a crush on you?
No.
You didn't?
No.
you're lying.
So why would you even ever ask her out?
Well, we were just flirting with each other.
Mr. Brooks must have felt he hit a jackpot as he met a young girl that gave him the chance to play it how he wanted, but Mr. Brooks claimed he didn't know Ms. Smith had a crush on him. Okay, that's cool, but unprotected sex with a young girl? That definitely isn't cool, and from Mr. Brooks' face, he knows.
Sports. The school nurse gave me a test, and it came up that I was pregnant.
Okay. And did you have to tell your mother who you thought?
Well, he didn't run when it was time to put it in, and have about 5 minutes of pleasure, Miss Smith. That's if he even lasted that long anyway. Miss Smith found out she was pregnant in school, and that must have caused some kind of stir. Mrs. Smith opened up to her mother about the father of her child being an older man, but she never went into details. You'd wonder why.
Few dollars, that's the time that I bought my son, Jimmy, an outfit and a pair of tennis shoes and some Pampers. You don't remember that?
Only in your mind.
All right, whatever.
your
You're a
mind.
liar. You're a liar.
Mr. Brooks may be a liar, as Miss Smith claims, but Miss Smith owns that spot considering she lied about her age to Mr. Brooks, which led to their one-time sexual relation. Mr. Brooks says he can't remember the particular memory Miss Smith is talking about, but Miss Smith thinks that's a lie.
Deceased.
Well, who told you I was deceased?
We went to court because I was
Who
getting in
told
the
you I was
military,
deceased?
and the courts in where we was in Virginia ran that they have to have both parents.
Deceased? This case just keeps going from bad to worse. Ms. Smith says she found out Mr. Brooks was deceased, so is it a spirit in the stand in the paternity court? Guess everybody should be scared. But there's no need for that since Mr. Brooks says he is alive in blood and flesh.
Grew up believing was your biological father?
The streets.
The streets.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, that's just what it is with growing up without a father, you know. You tend to go to negativity than positive because I don't know any good.
It was just bad vibes under. Mrs. Smith's son doesn't seem to be cool with Mr. Brooks, seeing as he already mentioned that the streets raised him and he doesn't think he needs Mr. Brooks anymore in his life. Even if that's true, the results still need to be announced.
Been determined by this court. Mr. Brooks, you are the father.
Only if people would stop cheating in relationships, paternity court wouldn't have to exist. Mr. Carr may be able to go through all aspects of life with a tough skin, but when it comes to Ms. Villa's cheating saga, he just can't deal with it anymore.
Notorious cheater who tried to pin her daughter Trinity on you.
Yes, Your Honor.
You claim there is no way you are the father and had to open today's case.
Mr. Carr's claim explains that Ms. Villa may be the leader of the pack when it comes to cheating, and he's just done with that, but he needs to know if he had fathered Ms. Villa's child in the time of them being together. Well, Ms. Villa claims she agrees to the cheating she's been accused of, but she knows Mr. Carr is the biological father of her child, and she's in court with her best friend to prove it.
It's heartbreaking.
What does that
From the
have anything to
beginning
do with
of the
Trinity?
relationship that we had together, she was a liar, a cheater, and no good for nothing.
Mr. Carr claims Ms. Villa was the woman he wanted to settle down with when he was down with all of his Casanova mode of living. That's not a bad idea, but unfortunately for Mr. Carr, Ms. Villa was just starting to get in that same mode he just quit. Ms. Villa also wanted to explore till she's had enough. Probably Mr. Carr came a little bit too early. Maybe he can wait till Ms. Villa would get over the phase too, but before then, there's a child with a paternity situation.
And it went from a one night stand to us having a kid.
Wow.
Wow, a one-night stand turned into a baby? Just like that? Okay, Ms. Villa. There must be more to this story that Ms. Villa just coded all together in a simple sentence.
We want to do this?
The problem was I couldn't get rid of her, Your Honor.
You said you wanted
If you
to save
wanted
her.
me gone, you would have spoke up and told me to get out.
And I did.
No,
You
you
son.
didn't.
And that's not what you just said.
8 8 different times with 8 different people, and Mr. Carr still accepted Ms. Villa back? That's unbelievable. Mr. Carr seemed to have gotten so comfortable with it, since he used to be like that too, and he was trying to save her, but Mr. Carr now seems to know there's possibly no redemption for someone like Ms. Villa, who always comes back to report herself anytime it happens.
Somebody else, which would warrant you believing Trinity is not your biological child.
The times of conception. The times of conception was she slept with a man on the 31st of January.
Tony,
Me and her
she was-
slept together.
Hold on one second. They did it in the car while the friend was driving? Oh, people really experiment with different things, but hearing this one would be a first for many people. Anyway, Mr. Carr says his doubts come from the conception dates not matching the times they had sex, but Ms. Villa says that's a big lie.
You have your child on October the 31st, that means that it is the other man's
You're a
child.
liar. Trinity
Because
was
that's
due
exactly 9
November
months.
21st. I had her 3 weeks early.
So you're saying the conception window is off, Miss Villa, because
Mr. Carr says the memory is burned in his brain as he's so certain about January 31st, but Ms. Villa says that's not the case because according to her own calculation, her window of conception falls within the time frame she and Mr. Carr kicked it off in the bar seat of a moving vehicle. It's hard to tell who's telling the truth, but the DNA test result will.
I went through.
But you kept taking me back.
when you say you didn't
And you're
deserve
bragging about being a cheater? Who in the world would take you back if you're sitting there
You don't,
bragging
that's the
about being a
problem.
cheater?
You don't let me talk ever.
You kept on saying, oh, you kept on.
That's not something to brag about like Mr. Kerr mentioned, but it seems there's more going on than just this paternity case. Ms. Villa says Mr. Carr doesn't let her talk, and that's what has been causing problems in their relationships. Could the other guys have been giving Ms. Villa the chance to talk?
you about this entire paternity question.
She's been wanting it a lot. A couple of times she's complained to me that he has not been wanting it.
He doesn't want
You
to go on
mean
the
wanting to
child
get the
support.
DNA test?
And now we know the reason Ms. Villa came with her best friend. Ms. McDonald says her friend has wanted a DNA test for the longest time to make all of this go away. Well, guess it's time to find out if it will go away, or Mr. Carr and Mrs. Villa will have to find a way to make it work for their potential child together.
It has been determined by this court. Mr. Carr, you are the father.
Being in a marriage and having a lover on the outside is something to be unheard of, but it happens for sure, just like in Ms. Johnson's case here where she has to fight in between her husband and her lover. It's a tug of war here, but someone has to win.
Ms. Johnson, you confess you have found yourself literally caught between your lover and your husband.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, you now have a daughter.
Ms. Johnson is standing in between her husband and her lover, not knowing which one of them fathered her child, and to make matters worse, Ms. Johnson is torn between these two men. She can't even pick a side. Anyway, Mr. Anderson hopes the result comes back positive in his favor, while Mr. Johnson says he will never be the father to the child, as Mr. Johnson also hopes the result comes back in his own favor. Now that's dicey.
If the child in question is due today.
Well, first of all, I want her name changed to Anderson because all my other kids are in the Anderson, and I want my name put on the birth certificate, and I wanted to be able to see her anytime I get ready.
That's affirmative. Mr. Anderson wants to get all the rights to the child as soon as the results come back and says he's the father. That's nice. Mr. Anderson meeting Ms. Johnson seemed like a fair meeting, which happens to many other people, but was Ms. Johnson married this time, or?
Real close, got to talking, and
But did you know she was married?
Yes, she was up front with me about that, yes. But she even got to the point where we had got so close, she would confide in me.
Oh, Mr. Anderson knew Ms. Johnson was married. Good. But how come these two can confide in each other so much about their other relationships? They were having sex, and they didn't feel the need to be with one another and let the two other folks hanging outside their relationship go? It could have been easier that way than having to come to paternity court to testify.
Beginning.
Please.
My husband had left me to go be with some other woman, and I wasn't gonna let him just go out and have a good time and me to sit home and wait for him, so I went out and done my thing too.
It looks like Mr. Anderson and Ms. Johnson were in love, or better still, they are still in love. Ms. Johnson was going through a heartbreak from her husband, and Mr. Anderson also confided in Ms. Johnson about his own partner. Cute. The cuteness goes down the drain since Ms. Johnson went back to her husband, and they resumed the bedroom activity, and that caused the confusion in not knowing who Ms. Johnson's baby daddy is.
Yellow are the dates you were intimate with Mr. Anderson, which would be the plaintiff. Now, outlined in green, you have the dates that you admittedly were intimate with your husband.
Ms. Johnson was really confused considering she already went back to her husband before the pregnancy, and her calendar makes it more clear that it could be any of these two men that had fathered her child. Mr. Johnson wanted to take responsibility despite knowing the child might not be his. That's commendable, but the other potential father who was cued out of the picture also wants to be in the child's life.
Says, my husband's just gonna be the father.
Right.
What do? Just step back?
Well, really, at that time, yeah, I was cool with it because, like I said, I got a family. You know, I had an old lady, and I was cool with it for a minute,
Judging from Mr. Anderson's face, anyone can tell Ms. Johnson is the one lying in the stand. Maybe Ms. Johnson doesn't want to lose her husband even though she still has feelings for Mr. Anderson, and she's still kicking it with him behind her husband's back.
Riley's now 4 years old. Do you believe that you're her father, or do you believe Mr. Anderson is her father?
I'm a father. I'm gonna be a father regardless.
Anyone would hate to be Otis at this moment. Probably Otis doesn't even want to be there, but he has to obey his father. These two grown men are arguing over the number of kids they've got, and that just seems ridiculous. They can meet up outside and square that out, but first, we need to know who the biological father of the child is.
I'm at my son's baseball game.
Are there times when you're not able to make it to the game?
Sometimes.
Okay.
Mr. Anderson's son attests to the fact that Ms. Johnson keeps it a secret from her husband, but warms up to Mr. Anderson being her child's father when Mr. Johnson is not around. Mr. Johnson says that the vivid picture Mr. Anderson's son painted is a lie, but how would he know when he's not at every game? Before these men make it more messy than it already is, let's see who really is the father.
It has been determined that her biological father is Mr. Anderson.
So,